The council chamber station floated in the darkness of space like a massive jewel. 47 different alien species lived and worked inside its metal walls. Each species had sent their best diplomats, their smartest scientists, their most trusted leaders. For 3,000 years, this station had been the center of galactic power. Every important decision was made here. Every treaty was signed here. Every conflict was resolved here. But today, the Grand Assembly Hall was filled with tension. Council Prime Velthar stood at the center podium, his forearms crossed in frustration. His skin, normally a calm blue color, had turned dark purple. Around him, representatives from dozens of worlds watched and waited. The topic was always the same these days. Humans. The mysterious species from a small blue planet called Earth, the species that had gone completely silent 40 years. Ego Velthar's voice echoed through the chamber. His words were tired, as if he had said them 1,000 times before. Perhaps he had. We sent our first contact probe to Earth 60 years ago, the humans responded. They were curious. They asked questions. They seemed eager to learn about the galaxy beyond their small world. We invited them to join the council. We offered them knowledge, protection, and friendship. He paused, looking around the room. Many of the assembled aliens nodded. They had heard this story before. They knew what came next. For 30 years, we sent invitation after invitation. 17 official summons. Each one was carefully prepared. Each one explained the benefits of council membership. And the humans? They talked to us for a while. Then 40 years ago, they sent one final message. It was short, polite, and final. Velthar activated a holographic display. Ancient text appeared in the air, glowing softly. The entire chamber could read the human message. Thank you for your interest. We respectfully decline at this time, that was it. 10 words. Then nothing. Complete silence. No more transmissions. No more questions. No more responses. Earth had gone dark. Ambassador Torrin from the Peaceful Coalition stood up. His species looked like tall, thin birds with silver feathers. His voice was gentle, always hopeful. Perhaps they destroyed themselves. Many primitive species do. They discover nuclear power before they discover wisdom. They build weapons before they build peace. The humans might simply be gone now. Several representatives nodded in agreement. It was a common theory. A sad one, but common. But War Marshal Krevthar stood up from his seat with a loud crash. The Draxian warrior was huge, with 4 powerful arms and thick armor-like skin. His red eyes blazed with anger. Or perhaps it was fear disguised as anger. You are all fools. The humans are not dead. They are hiding. They are building. They saw our power and became afraid. No, not afraid. They became smart. They knew they could not join us as weak children. So they went silent. They are preparing. The chamber erupted in noise. Some representatives laughed. Others looked concerned. Most seemed to think Krevthar was being paranoid as usual. Velthar raised one of his 4 hands, calling for silence. The noise slowly died down. War Marshal, with respect, this theory has no evidence. Our long-range sensors show no expansion from Earth, no colony ships, no military vessels. Their civilization appears dormant. Most likely, they simply decided galactic affairs were too complex for their primitive society. Krevthar's fists clenched, but he sat down, saying nothing more. Still, his eyes continued to scan the chamber, as if looking for enemies that were not there. The council was preparing to move on to other business when an alert sounded. It was a priority signal. Something unusual had happened. A communication officer rushed into the chamber. Her species had 6 legs and moved with incredible speed. She was breathing hard, clearly having run all the way from the communications center. Council Prime. You need to see this. Immediately. Velthar's expression darkened. What now? A new holographic display appeared. It showed a star map of the outer territories. Near the edge of council space, a small red icon was blinking. It marked the location of a Draxian patrol. The communication officer's voice shook slightly as she spoke. 2 hours ago, Draxian Patrol Group 7 encountered an unknown vessel. The ship was large, advanced. It did not match any known design in our databases. When the patrol attempted to scan it, their sensors could not get a clear reading. The ship appeared and disappeared from their instruments. The chamber went completely silent. Every representative leaned forward, focused entirely on the officer's words. The patrol commander sent a standard greeting. The unknown ship responded. With a human transmission, the room exploded into chaos. Aliens were shouting, some in disbelief, some in fear. Krefthar stood up again, and this time his expression was not angry. It was something far more worrying. He looked vindicated. Velthar's voice cut through the noise like a blade. Play the transmission. Now. The holographic display changed. Audio filled the chamber. The voice was calm, measured, and completely confident. It spoke in perfect galactic standard, with no trace of uncertainty. This system is under human observation. Your presence is noted. You are advised to continue your patrol route without deviation. This is not a threat. It is information. The transmission ended. The chamber was silent again, but this silence was different. It was heavy with realization and fear. One of the younger representatives, a being made of crystalline structures, spoke softly. Under observation? How long have they been watching us? How many systems? How many ships do they have? No one had answers. For 40 years, the Council had assumed humanity was gone, afraid or simply not interested. Now suddenly everything had changed. Humans had ships, advanced ships that could hide from sensors, ships that were monitoring Council space, and nobody knew how long this had been happening. Velthar made a decision. His voice was firm, but there was an edge to it that had not been there before. Send another summons to Earth. Priority quantum channel. Make it clear this is not an invitation. It is a demand. We need to know what humanity has been doing for 40 years. We need to know their intentions. And we need to know now. The message was sent within the hour. Every species in the Council waited for a response. Days passed. Then weeks. Some began to think the humans would ignore them again. But on the 23rd day, something incredible happened. Every communication channel in the Council chamber station activated at once. Every screen, every holographic projector, every speaker. All of them displayed the same image. A human woman appeared. She looked to be in her 50s with silver-streaked black hair pulled back in a tight style. Her uniform was simple but elegant, dark blue with silver insignia. Her eyes were sharp and intelligent. When she spoke, her voice carried absolute authority. I am Admiral Jiwan Park, commander of the Human Expeditionary Fleet. We received your summons. After careful consideration, we have decided to accept your invitation to the Council chamber station. She paused, and something that might have been a slight smile crossed her face. We will arrive in 30 standard days. Please prepare appropriate docking facilities. We are bringing a fleet. For security purposes, you understand. The transmission ended as quickly as it had begun. No opportunity for questions. No discussion. Just a simple statement of fact. Velthar sat down slowly in his chair. Around him, the Council chamber was in chaos. Representatives were arguing, shouting, demanding action. But all Velthar could think about was one thing. The humans had said they were bringing a fleet. Not a ship. Not a delegation, a fleet. That meant they had more than one advanced vessel. How many more? 10, 100? 1,000? For 40 years, the galaxy had forgotten about humanity. Now humanity was coming back, and nobody knew what that meant. The countdown had begun. 30 days until humanity emerged from its long silence. 30 days to prepare for whatever was coming. 30 days that suddenly felt far too short. 30 days passed like a held breath. The Council chamber station had never been so crowded. Every major species sent observation ships. Scientific vessels packed with sensors lined up in designated zones. Military commanders positioned their fleets at what they hoped were safe distances. Everyone wanted to see what humanity would bring. The Draxian battle group was the largest presence. War Marshal Krefthar had assembled 300 warships, including 5 massive planet-breaker dreadnoughts. He claimed it was for security. Everyone knew it was a show of force, a reminder of who had real military power in the galaxy. On the final day, every sensor was pointed at the area of space where Earth was located. Ships would need to come from that direction. It would take them hours to cross the final distance, giving everyone plenty of time to study their approach. That was what everyone expected. Humanity had other ideas. The human fleet did not come from Earth's direction. They did not come from any single direction. At exactly the scheduled moment, space itself seemed to tear open in 53 different locations around the Council station. Not wormholes, not jump points, something else entirely. Something that made physics scream in protest. Ships appeared. Massive ships. Beautiful ships. Terrifying ships. Each one was dark metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Their hulls were smooth with no visible weapons, no obvious weak points. They hung in space like predators, silent and still. The largest ship appeared directly above the council station. It was 5 kilometers long. Its shape was elegant, like a blade designed by an artist. Along its hull, symbols glowed with soft blue light. Human writing. The name of the ship. Horizon's Edge. In the council chamber, every alarm was screaming. Sensor operators were shouting reports. Military commanders were demanding information. And through it all, Velthar stood frozen, staring at the tactical display. 53 ships, all appearing at once, all appearing from nowhere. Inside Horizon's Edge, Captain Hana Lee stood on the command bridge. She was young for a ship captain, only 35 years old. Her uniform was crisp and perfect, but her hands were clenched behind her back, hidden from her crew. She was worried. Behind her, Admiral Jiwan Park watched the holographic displays with calm satisfaction. She saw the panic in the alien fleets. She saw ships scrambling to reposition. She saw exactly what she wanted to see. Respect born from shock. Captain Lee spoke quietly, just loud enough for the Admiral to hear. Admiral, permission to speak freely. Admiral Park nodded. She valued Lee's perspective even when they disagreed. Granted, we just scared them badly. Maybe we should have arrived more gently, shown them we want peace, not conflict. Admiral Park turned to face her captain. Her expression was not angry, but it was firm. Fear and respect are not the same thing, Captain. But sometimes fear teaches respect faster than words ever could. These species have spent 3,000 years as the powerful ones. They need to understand that power is not permanent. Only then can we talk to them as equals. Before Captain Lee could respond, the communication officer called out, Admiral, we are receiving multiple hails from the Draxian fleet. They are requesting we accept an escort to the station. For our protection, they say. Admiral Park smiled, but there was no humor in it. An escort. How thoughtful. Tell them we appreciate their concern, but we can manage. Across the void, War Marshal Krevthar was not pleased with the human response. His 4 fists pounded on the command console of his flagship. They refuse. They dare refuse a Draxian escort. Show them what happens when they disrespect our protection. His second-in-command, Commander Thrall, looked uncomfortable. He was an experienced warrior, with scars from 100 battles. But he had also survived those battles by knowing when to fight and when to think. War Marshal, perhaps we should observe first. We do not know their capabilities. They appeared from nowhere. Our sensors barely register their ships. Maybe caution would be wise. Krevthar's eyes blazed. Caution is for the weak. Move the fleet to surround them. All ships. I want the humans to see Draxian power. I want them to understand their place. The Draxian fleet began to move. 300 warships, the pride of the hierarchy, forming a massive sphere around the human vessels. It was an impressive sight, a clear message. Submit or face consequences. On Horizon's Edge, Dr. Minho Kang watched the Draxian movement with scientific interest. He was a thin man with tired eyes. He had not slept properly in 3 days, too busy running final calculations on the fleet's systems. Now his work would be tested. He spoke to Admiral Park without taking his eyes off his data screens. They are positioning for intimidation, standard encirclement formation, very aggressive but not actually hostile yet. I predict someone will fire a warning shot within the next 2 minutes. The Draxians are not patient, Admiral Park nodded. How long until our defensive fields are fully charged? Already done. We have been ready since we arrived. Dr. Kang was right about the Draxians. Almost exactly 90 seconds later, a young Draxian commander, eager to prove his courage, fired a ranging shot. It was not meant to hit anything. Just a burst of energy, a test to see how the humans would react. A stupid decision, made by someone who did not understand what he was facing. The energy bolt streaked across space, heading directly for one of the human destroyers. Every sensor in the system watched. The bolt reached the human ship and touched an invisible barrier around its hull. Then something impossible happened. The energy simply vanished. Not deflected, not absorbed. It just stopped existing. Dr. Kang spoke in the silence that followed, his voice calm and academic. Null field shield operating at full efficiency. The energy was converted to harmless radiation and dispersed. Their weapons cannot touch us. Not with conventional firepower. In the Draxian flagship, chaos erupted. Sensor operators were checking and rechecking their instruments. Weapons officers were running diagnostics. Everyone was trying to understand what they had just seen. Commander Thrall turned to War Marshal Krevthar with barely controlled fury. Who fired? Who gave that order? Find them. But Krevthar was not listening. He was staring at the tactical display, watching the human ships. They had not moved. They had not powered weapons. They had not even responded to the attack. They just sat there completely untouchable, as if the most powerful weapons in the Draxian arsenal were nothing more than annoying insects. For the first time in his long military career, War Marshal Krevthar felt something he had not experienced in decades. True fear. The communication channel from the humans opened. Admiral Park's face appeared on every Draxian screen. Her expression was perfectly neutral, professional, but her words carried weight. War Marshal Krevthar. We understand that was an accident. A young officer acting without authorization. We choose to view it as such. However, let me be clear. Our defensive systems are active and will remain active. For security purposes, I am sure you understand. The transmission ended. No threats, no anger. Just a simple statement that somehow felt more dangerous than any weapon. Commander Thrall spoke quietly to his War Marshal. Sir, we should withdraw the encirclement. This is not a fight we can win. Not today. Maybe not ever, Krevthar wanted to argue. His pride demanded it. But he had not survived this long by being stupid. He gave the order. The Draxian fleet pulled back, repositioning to a respectful distance. He would call it a successful escort operation. Everyone would know the truth. The Draxians had backed down. Humanity had won without firing a single shot. A small shuttle departed from Horizon's edge, heading toward the council station. Inside sat Ambassador Sora Kim. She was 32 years old with sharp eyes and perfect posture. She had trained her entire adult life for this moment. First contact with an entire galactic civilization. The weight of it sat heavy on her shoulders. Behind her, 4 human security officers sat in silence. They wore simple uniforms but carried advanced weapons, just in case diplomacy failed. They hoped it would not come to that. They had trained for it anyway. The shuttle docked with the council station smoothly. The airlock opened. Ambassador Kim stepped through into the main reception hall. It was enormous, designed to accommodate species of all sizes and shapes. Beings made of crystal stood next to beings made of metal. Creatures with wings hovered near creatures that crawled. The diversity was breathtaking. But what struck Ambassador Kim most was not the variety of species. It was their expressions. Every single alien was watching her. And in their eyes she saw the same thing. Fear, calculation, worry. They were not looking at her as a fellow intelligent being. They were looking at her as a threat, as something unknown and dangerous. Council Prime Velthar approached, flanked by a dozen guards. He spread his forearms in what might have been a welcoming gesture, or perhaps just a nervous one. Ambassador Kim, welcome to the council chamber station. We have much to discuss. Ambassador Kim bowed slightly, a gesture of respect. Council Prime Velthar, thank you for your hospitality. Yes, we have much to discuss. About the past, about the present, and about the future we will build together. She emphasized that last word, together, because that was what humanity wanted everyone to understand. They were not here to conquer. They were not here to destroy. They were here to change everything, and they would do it whether the council liked it or not. As Ambassador Kim walked through the station corridors toward the Grand Assembly Hall, the Grand Assembly Hall was the largest room on the council station. Its ceiling stretched so high that clouds sometimes formed near the top. Seats for representatives from 47 different species filled the circular chamber in rising tiers. At the center stood a single podium. This is where species addressed the galaxy, where treaties were announced, where history was made. Ambassador Sora Kim stood at that podium now. She looked small compared to the enormous space around her, but when she spoke, her voice carried to every corner of the hall. Every translator in the chamber worked perfectly, converting her words into dozens of different languages. Every being present listened. Representatives of the Galactic Council, members of all assembled species. I stand before you today not to beg for membership, not to request forgiveness for our silence. I stand here to tell you the truth. A truth that some of you will not want to hear. A truth that all of you need to understand. She paused, letting her words settle. In the audience, Velthar leaned forward. Something in the ambassador's tone made him uneasy. This was not going to be a simple apology and request for admission. This was something else. 60 years ago, your probes reached Earth. We were amazed, terrified, excited. We were not alone in the universe. There were others, advanced others. You invited us to join the council. You offered us knowledge and protection. For 30 years, you sent invitation after invitation. Ambassador Kim activated a holographic display. Images of Earth appeared. Old images from 60 years ago. A planet divided, nations in conflict, technology that was primitive compared to the galaxy. This was humanity when you first contacted us. Divided, weak, barely capable of reaching our own moon. If we had accepted your invitation then, we would have joined as children, as the youngest, weakest species in the council. And we asked ourselves a question: what happens to weak species in the council? The holographic display changed. Now it showed data, charts, information that made several representatives shift uncomfortably in their seats. We studied your civilization carefully. For 30 years, we listened to everything we could detect. Public broadcasts, scientific publications, even your private communications. And we learned something very interesting. The Galactic Council is not what it claims to be. The chamber erupted in noise. Representatives were shouting. Some in anger, some in protest. Velthar raised two of his arms, calling for silence. It took several minutes for the noise to die down. Ambassador Kim continued as if the interruption had not happened. Your council speaks of equality, of cooperation, of uplifting primitive species. But the reality is different. Let me share what we discovered. The display showed more data, technology trees, development restrictions, economic controls. Junior species in the council are systematically prevented from accessing certain technologies. Weapons technology, advanced propulsion systems, anything that might allow them to challenge the established powers. This is hidden behind safety regulations and readiness assessments. But the effect is clear. Junior species stay junior. Forever. A small crystalline being in the audience stood up. Its voice was high and shaking with emotion. This is true. My people have been trying to develop faster engines for 200 years. Every request is denied, always for our own protection. We suspected. Now we know. Other voices joined in. Minor species, smaller civilizations, beings who had long suspected they were being kept in their place. Ambassador Kim had given them something powerful. Confirmation. Velthar's blue skin had turned almost purple. He stood up, his forearms spread wide. These restrictions exist for good reason. Dangerous technologies in the hands of unprepared species have destroyed civilizations. We protect, we guide. We save lives. Ambassador Kim turned to face him directly. Who decides who is prepared? Who judges who is ready? Always the same species. Always the ones who already have power. Council Prime, I do not question your intentions. I question your methods. And I question a system where some species rule and others follow. Forever. Behind Ambassador Kim, a door opened. Commander Taeyong Choi entered the hall. He was a serious man with gray hair and scars that spoke of a military background. He carried data storage devices. Lots of them. Ambassador Kim gestured to the commander. This is Commander Taeyong Choi. For 40 years, he has been running humanity's intelligence operations, monitoring your civilization, learning your secrets. Commander, please share what you found. Commander Choi's voice was calm but firm. He had delivered briefings to world leaders. This was just a larger audience. While the council believed humanity had gone silent, we were actually very busy. We built a network of observation posts throughout your space and small, hidden watching. We mapped every system you control. We analyzed your technology. We studied your politics. And we documented everything. The holographic display began showing evidence. Images of council military bases. Recordings of private communications between dominant species. Economic data showing how wealth flowed from minor species to major ones. Trade agreements that were clearly one-sided. Military deployments designed to intimidate rather than protect. War Marshal Krevthar stood up, his red eyes blazing. This is espionage. This is an act of war. You spied on us for decades. Commander Choi looked at him without fear. We observed. The same way you observe every species before you allow them council membership. The same way you monitor junior members to ensure they follow your rules. We simply did it better and for longer. And what we saw convinced us that joining your council as a weak species would be a terrible mistake. Ambassador Kim stepped forward again. 40 years ago, we made a choice. Dr. Minho Kang had discovered something revolutionary, a new way to travel faster than light, a way better than anything the council used. But developing it would take time, resources, and most importantly, it required secrecy. If we told you about it, you would have demanded we share it, before we fully understood it, before we could protect ourselves. The display showed images of Dr. Kang, a thin, tired man working in laboratories, complex equations that made no sense to most of the audience, prototype ships being tested in the empty space between stars. So we went silent. We let you believe we were afraid, or destroyed, or simply not interested. While you forgot about us, we worked. We unified our planet. We built our fleet. We developed technology that you never imagined was possible. And we did it all in secret. Ambassador Kim's voice grew stronger, more passionate. We are not here to apologize for our choices. We are here to explain them. We saw a galaxy where power was concentrated in a few hands, where the strong made rules that kept them strong and the weak stayed weak. We refused to enter that system from a position of weakness, so we made ourselves strong first. Strong enough that you have to respect us. Strong enough that you have to listen. The hall was completely silent now. Every being was processing what they had heard. The implications were enormous. Humanity had not just developed advanced technology. They had deliberately deceived the entire council for 40 years. And worse, they had gathered evidence that proved the council was not the fair democracy it claimed to be. Velthar sat down slowly. His forearms hung limply at his sides. He looked old suddenly, tired, because he knew something that many others in the hall did not yet realize. Everything had just changed. The old order was broken, and he had no idea how to fix it. A representative from a minor species stood up. Its species looked like walking plants with leaves instead of hair. Its voice was soft but carried through the hall. Ambassador Kim. What does humanity want? You have shown us our flaws. You have exposed our system. What is your goal? Ambassador Kim smiled. It was a genuine smile. Warm and hopeful. We want to fix it. Together. We want a galaxy where every species has a real voice. Where technology is shared, not hoarded. Where the strong protect the weak instead of controlling them. We want to build something better. Not by destroying what you have, but by transforming it. She looked around the hall, making eye contact with as many representatives as possible. We did not come here to conquer. We came here to change things, and we will do it with or without your cooperation, but we would much prefer to do it together, because a galaxy united in purpose is stronger than a galaxy divided by power. War Marshal Krevthar stood up again, but this time his voice was not angry. It was calculating, dangerous, pretty words, but words do not change reality. The Draxian hierarchy will not accept this disruption. We will restore order, by whatever means necessary. He turned and walked out of the hall. Several of his aides followed. Other representatives from dominant species looked at each other nervously. Some stood and left as well. The council was fracturing, right before everyone's eyes. But many representatives stayed, especially the minor species, the ones who had always suspected the system was rigged against them. They looked at Ambassador Kim with something new in their eyes. Not fear anymore. Hope. In the human fleet, Admiral Jiwon Park watched the live broadcast from the assembly hall. Next to her, Dr. Minho Kang was monitoring the Draxian fleet movements. The War Marshal was mobilizing his forces, preparing for something. Admiral Park spoke quietly. He is going to try something. The Draxians do not accept change easily. Dr. Kang nodded without taking his. The Draxian hierarchy did not do things halfway. When War Marshal Krevthar left the Council Assembly Hall, he returned to his flagship with a single purpose. Restore order. By force if necessary. And in his mind, force was always necessary when dealing with those who challenged Draxian authority. Within hours, the largest military fleet in Draxian history began arriving at the Council Station. 300 ships had been there before. Now 500 more joined them. Battleships, cruisers, carriers filled with fighter craft, And at the center, the pride of the hierarchy. 10 planet-breaker dreadnoughts, each one capable of cracking a world's crust with sustained bombardment. The display of military power was overwhelming. Every species in the station watched with growing concern. This was not a defensive formation. This was an invasion force, and everyone knew who the target was. War Marshal Krevthar broadcast his message on all frequencies. His voice was strong, confident, and allowed no room for disagreement. Representatives of the Galactic Council. We face a crisis. The human species has admitted to spying on us for decades. They have deceived us. They have violated our space without permission. They have brought weapons of unknown capability into Council territory. This cannot be tolerated. The Draxian hierarchy offers its protection and will ensure stability during these uncertain times. He paused for effect. Then came the ultimatum. The Council will reaffirm its traditional leadership structure. The human fleet will submit to weapons inspections and technology sharing agreements. They will accept Council supervision, or they will leave. Immediately. These are the only acceptable options. In the human flagship Horizon's Edge, the command crew watched the Draxian fleet with professional calm. But inside, tensions were high. Captain Hanali stood next to Admiral Jiwan Park, her hands clasped behind her back to hide their shaking. Admiral, we should withdraw. Ambassador Kim has made her point. We have shown our strength. If we stay now, we risk a battle that could kill thousands, maybe millions. Is making a political statement worth that? Admiral Park did not look away from the tactical display showing the Draxian fleet. Her voice was calm but firm. Captain, I understand your concern. I share it. But consider what happens if we leave. The Draxians will claim victory. The Council will learn that force works against us. Every species will know that if you threaten humanity with enough ships, we run away. Is that the lesson you want to teach the galaxy? Before Captain Lee could respond, Dr. Min Ho Kang spoke up from his science station. His fingers never stopped moving across his control panels as he talked. There might be a third option. Neither fighting nor fleeing. We could demonstrate capability so far beyond their understanding that fighting becomes pointless. Show them something they cannot match. Something that makes the idea of military confrontation ridiculous. Admiral Park turned to look at the scientist. What did you have in mind? Dr. Kang brought up a new display. Complex equations and energy patterns that made little sense to anyone who was not a quantum physicist. Quantum echo fields. We have been developing them for defensive purposes. Each ship can project a perfect sensor image of itself displaced in space. Not a hologram. A complete quantum signature that registers as real matter and energy to any detection system. We could make our 53 ships appear to be 500 ships. Or 5,000. The Draxians would not be able to tell which ones are real. Captain Lee looked alarmed. But that could provoke them to attack. If they think we have thousands of ships, they might see it as an even bigger threat. Commander Taeyong Choi, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. His intelligence network had been monitoring Draxian communications since they arrived. Actually, Captain, our intelligence suggests the opposite. The Draxian fleet is not unified. Many commanders are uncomfortable with War Marshal Krevthar's aggressive approach. They remember what happened when that young officer fired at our ship. They saw their most powerful weapons become useless. If we show them capability that makes targeting impossible, they will refuse to fight. Military logic will override political orders. Admiral Park considered the information carefully. She looked at each of her officers in turn. Then she made her decision. Dr. Kang, prepare the quantum echo fields. All ships. Maximum displacement. I want every Draxian sensor to see an impossible number of human vessels. Captain Lee, send a message to all our ships. Battle stations, but weapons stay cold. We defend if attacked, but we do not fire first. Understood? Yes, Admiral. Both officers moved to carry out their orders. In the Draxian flagship, War Marshal Krevthar was feeling confident. 800 warships under his command. The humans had only 53. Even if their defensive shields were impressive, numbers would prevail. Numbers always prevailed in war. His second-in-command, Commander Thrall, was not so confident. The older warrior had survived too many battles by trusting his instincts, and his instincts were screaming warnings. War Marshal, I recommend caution. We do not know the full extent of human capabilities. Perhaps we should wait. Observe. Gather more intelligence before we act. Krevthar's four fists slammed on the command console. Caution, we have 800 ships. They have 53. What intelligence do we need beyond simple mathematics? No, we move now. All vessels to combat formation. Surround the human fleet. Show them what real military power looks like. The Draxian fleet began to move. 800 warships forming a massive sphere around the human vessels. Weapons were powered. Targeting systems were active. One word from Krevthar and 1,000 weapons would fire at once. That was when the human fleet activated their quantum echo fields. To the Draxian sensors, it looked like reality broke. One moment they were facing 53 human ships. The next moment there were hundreds. Then thousands. Human vessels appeared throughout the system. Above the station, below it, scattered among the Draxian fleet itself. Perfect formations that would be impossible to coordinate through any known communication system. Draxian tactical computers went into overload trying to process the data. Which ships were real? Which were illusions? The quantum signatures were identical. There was no way to tell without direct visual confirmation, and there were too many to check visually. On the Draxian flagship, chaos erupted. Sensor officers were shouting reports. Weapons officers were demanding targeting solutions that did not exist. The tactical display looked like madness. Thousands of enemy vessels, all of them potentially real, all of them potentially deadly. Commander Thrall turned to War Marshal Krevthar with barely controlled anger. We cannot fight this. Our targeting systems are useless. We could fire at illusions while the real ships destroy us. Sir, this is a battle we cannot win. Krevthar stared at the tactical display. His mind refused to accept what he was seeing. It had to be a trick, a deception. The humans could not actually have thousands of ships. Fire anyway. All ships. Saturate the space with weapons fire. We will hit something real. But Commander Thrall did not give the order. Instead, he stood up and faced his war marshal directly. Around the bridge, other officers watched with wide eyes. What Thrall was about to do was unthinkable in Draxian military culture. No, I will not give that order. Our military code is clear. A commander who leads forces into an unwinnable battle is unfit to command. You are relieved, War Marshal. For the safety of the fleet. Krevthar's eyes blazed with fury. His four arms reached for weapons. But the security officers on the bridge were faster. They moved to restrain him. Not roughly, but firmly. Even they understood. This was not cowardice. This was survival. Commander Thrall took the War Marshal's position at the command console. He sent a message to all Draxian ships. His voice was calm and professional. All vessels. Stand down, weapons. Begin withdrawal to safe distance. This operation is concluded. There was a moment of hesitation. Then one by one the Draxian ships began to comply. Weapons powered down. The massive fleet started to pull back. Not in panic, not in defeat, but in the careful, organized manner of professional military forces who knew when a fight was pointless. On Horizon's edge, Captain Lee watched the Draxian withdrawal with visible relief. She turned to Admiral Park. They are retreating, we did it. Without firing a single shot, Admiral Park nodded slowly. But her expression was serious. We won this confrontation. But we have also just scared them more than before. Fear can lead to respect. But it can also lead to desperation. The next few days will be critical. Dr. Kang, maintain the quantum echoes for another hour, then power them down gradually. Let them see our real ship count again. I want them to understand we could have kept them fooled forever, but chose not to. Throughout the council station, representatives from 47 species had watched the confrontation with held breath. They saw the Draxian fleet's overwhelming numbers. They saw the human response. They saw the impossible appear before their eyes. And they saw the mighty Draxian hierarchy back down. Council Prime Velthar sat alone in his private chambers. His forearms hung loosely at his sides. His skin had turned a pale blue that indicated deep stress in his species. He was watching recordings of the confrontation, studying them, trying to understand what the galaxy had become. For 3,000 years, the Council had maintained order through a simple principle. The strong ruled. The weak followed. It was not perfect, but it was stable. Now humanity had proven they were strong, stronger. The negotiation chamber was smaller than the Grand Assembly Hall. It was designed for serious work, not grand speeches. A circular table filled most of the room. 47 seats for the council species. One new seat for humanity. And at the center, holographic displays that could show data, proposals, and voting results. Ambassador Sora Kim sat in the human seat. She wore a simple blue uniform. No weapons, no guards. Just her and a data tablet containing humanity's proposals for reforming the council. Around her sat representatives from every known spacefaring species. Some looked curious. Some looked hostile. All looked uncertain. Council Prime Velthar opened the session. His voice was formal but tired. The events of recent days had aged him. We are here to discuss the future of galactic governance. Humanity has raised concerns about our current system. They have demonstrated capability that we cannot ignore, and they have offered to work with us rather than against us. Ambassador Kim, the floor is yours. Ambassador Kim stood. She activated the holographic display. A document appeared, floating in the air where everyone could see it. Thank you, Council Prime. What you see here is a proposal we call the Galactic Compact. It is not a human document. Over the past week, we have been meeting privately with representatives from 13 minor species. Together, we have created this framework, a new way to organize galactic civilization. The document began to scroll, showing key points. Ambassador Kim highlighted each one as she spoke. First, true representative governance. Every species gets a voice proportional to their population and development level. No more permanent seats, no more species that always lead while others always follow. Second, mandatory technology sharing. All member species agree to share scientific advances with others. No more artificial restrictions to keep junior species weak. Third, military limitations. All members restrict offensive weapons. Defensive forces are unlimited, but weapons designed for conquest require majority approval to develop or deploy. A Draxian representative stood up. He was not War Marshal Krevthar, who had been removed from power. This was a younger commander named Thrall, the same one who had stopped the battle, Ambassador Kim. These proposals sound fair in theory, but they ignore reality. Some species are more advanced than others. Some have more resources. Some have larger populations. Equal voice does not mean equal capability. How do you address this? Ambassador Kim nodded. It was a good question. An honest one, you are correct. Equal voice does not create equal capability immediately, but it creates equal opportunity over time. With technology sharing, less advanced species can catch up. With fair representation, resources can be distributed more justly. Yes, it will take time. Generations, perhaps. But the alternative is maintaining a system where some species rule forever and others serve forever. Is that preferable? A representative from one of the oldest species stood. Her people had been council leaders for thousands of years. Her voice was sharp with anger. This proposal would destroy everything we have built. 3,000 years of stability, of peace. You want to tear it down because it is not perfect? Nothing is perfect. But our system works. A small crystalline being from a minor species spoke up. Its voice was quiet, but everyone listened. It works for you, for the powerful species, for those at the top. But my people have been council members for 800 years. 800 years. And we are still classified as junior members, still restricted, still supervised. We have never been allowed to truly advance. Your system works to keep you powerful and us weak. That is not peace. That is control. Other voices joined in. Minor species, smaller civilizations, beings who had been silent for centuries suddenly finding the courage to speak. The room filled with voices, some angry, some pleading, all demanding to be heard. Velthar raised two of his forearms, calling for silence. It took several minutes for the noise to settle. This is exactly what I feared. The compact will fracture us, create conflicts between species that have coexisted for millennia. How do we prevent this from becoming chaos? Ambassador Kim looked directly at the Council Prime. Her expression was serious but not unkind. Council Prime, these conflicts already exist. They have always existed. Your old system simply suppressed them, forced them into silence. We are not creating problems. We are finally acknowledging problems that have been ignored for too long. Yes, it will be uncomfortable. Yes, there will be arguments. But honest conflict is better than false peace built on inequality. On Horizon's edge, Captain Hana Lee watched the negotiations through a live broadcast. Next to her stood Admiral Jiwon Park. Both women were tense. This moment would decide everything. Captain Lee spoke quietly, not wanting to disturb the bridge crew monitoring the session. Admiral, do you think they will accept it? The compact? Admiral Park did not take her eyes off the screen showing the negotiations. Honestly, I do not know. The minor species want it desperately, but the dominant species will fight to keep their power. Everything depends on a few key individuals. Species like Velthars, they have benefited from the old system, but they are also not evil. If they can see beyond their own interests, if they can choose what is right over what is comfortable, then perhaps. Captain Lee turned to look at her admiral. Do you think we are doing the right thing, forcing this change? Maybe we should let them decide without our pressure. Admiral Park smiled sadly. Captain, power always influences decisions. The question is not whether we have power. We do, the question is what we do with it. We could use our strength to dominate, to rule, to become the new top species in a system just as unfair as the old one. Or we can use our strength to create space for real change, to protect those who want reform but cannot demand it safely. That is what we are doing. Not forcing change, enabling it. Back in the negotiation chamber, the debate had been going for hours. Representatives were tired, frustrated, some had left in protest. Others refused to compromise. The compact seemed to be failing. Too many interests, too much history, too much fear. Then Council Prime Velthar did something unexpected. He stood up. His forearms spread wide. His voice carried through the chamber with absolute authority. Enough. I have listened to all arguments. I have considered all positions. And I have made a decision, not just as Council Prime, as a being who has lived long enough to recognize truth when he hears it. Every eye in the room focused on him. The chamber went completely silent. Ambassador Kim is correct. Our system is unjust. I did not see it before because I benefited from it. My species has led for 3,000 years. We told ourselves we were serving, protecting, guiding. But the truth is simpler and uglier. We were controlling. We kept power because we enjoyed having power, and we convinced ourselves it was for everyone's good. Representatives from dominant species began to protest. Velthar raised one arm, silencing them. I am not finished. I support the Galactic Compact, fully and completely. I propose we put it to a vote. Every species. Equal voice for this one vote. Let us see what the galaxy truly wants, not what the powerful want. What everyone wants. The chamber erupted in noise again, but this time it was different. Not angry shouting, excited discussion, surprised murmurs, hope mixed with disbelief. The Council Prime, the leader of the dominant species, had just thrown his support behind reform. It changed everything. Ambassador Kim felt something release in her chest. A tension she had been carrying for days, maybe weeks. She caught Velthar's eye across the room. He nodded slightly. She nodded back. An understanding passed between them. This was bigger than politics. This was about doing what was right. The vote was held that same day. Electronic systems ensured every species could vote simultaneously. The holographic display at the center of the table showed the results as they came in. Green for yes, red for no. The percentages shifted with each new vote. Minor species voted yes almost unanimously. Dominant species were divided. Some voted no, clinging to the old system. But many, following Velthar's lead, voted yes, understanding that change was inevitable and choosing to guide it rather than resist it. When the final vote came in, the result was clear. 39 species for the compact, 9 against. The Galactic Compact had passed. The old council was officially dissolved. A new era had begun. On Horizon's edge, the entire bridge crew cheered. Captain Lee hugged Admiral Park, forgetting military protocol in the excitement. Even the normally reserved Dr. Minho Kang was smiling. But Admiral Park's celebration was brief. She knew this was just the beginning. The hard work of actually implementing the compact would take years, decades perhaps. There would be resistance, setbacks, conflicts, but at least now there was a foundation, a commitment to something better. In the negotiation chamber, Ambassador Kim stood at the window, looking out at the human fleet. And beyond it, the stars. Billions of stars, millions of worlds. And now, for the first time, a galactic civilization committed to genuine cooperation rather than domination. Velthar approached her. His blue skin had returned to its normal color. He looked tired but at peace. Ambassador Kim, thank you for forcing us to see what we had become, for giving us a chance to be better. She turned to face him. Council Prime, you made the hardest choice. You gave up power voluntarily. The